First Alert Weather Warning.
Hi everyone, meteorologist Tyler Jankoski here. We have a tornado warning that has been issued for Essex County, New York. We'll take you over to the maps. I want to show you what's going on. This storm just entered the western part of Essex County. So this area in red here is the tornado warning. It includes Newcomb, and this whole area is the tornado warning until 8:15. So it's 7:52 now. We have over 20 minutes left of this warning, and we'll take you through and show you what's going on here, why this warning was issued. This is the velocity product that we take a look at here, and it's a very strong signature of rotation that has moved into western Essex County, and that's why the tornado warning was issued. The concern for the tornado now about to be in Newcomb. This storm continues to move off to the east and northeast here at a pretty decent clip. The warning, as I mentioned, goes until 8:15. The storm itself is moving northeast at 30 miles per hour. So we'll put a track on this and show you where the danger area is as we go forward. This will bring it into a more central part of Essex County, New York very soon. We'll take a look here, the track, put it roughly where the main tornado threat is, which is still south and west of Newcomb. And if we drag this out at about 30 miles an hour, which is what the storm is doing here, this brings it through Newcomb in about 13 minutes. And then out even farther north and east than this. Obviously a very rural area that this storm is traveling through, but it's certainly a very concerning signature right now. We'll take a look at the radar here from Montague, which is just out to the west, and you can see the heavy rain. So heavy rain certainly with this storm. We're seeing lightning as well, but the biggest concern would be for the spin, the tornado here, as this moves over Route 28N in the Newcomb area. And it's a very strong signature. We can show you here just how much wind we're seeing. If we take a look at the color here, the bright blue, that's a radar detected speed of about 83 miles per hour, and it's very close to an area that's less. So you get some spin in there. Just had a brand new radar scan come in. You saw it move there a little bit off to the north and east. I'll put a circle on this and show you where the area of concern is for the tornado now that we have this new scan. It's right in this area, literally on the western border of Essex County. This is right over Route 28N, a little bit west of the center of Newcomb. And this thing keeps moving along here at about 30 miles per hour. So the storm popped up actually just a little bit west of here in Hamilton County. It flared up super quick and then moved into Essex County, and it's still straddling the border here. We'll zoom out and give you a better idea of what's going on. It was about an hour ago we had nothing, and then all of a sudden this storm flared up, and it's moving along fairly quickly. So if it holds together just in terms of a longer term idea here of where it's going, it's heading towards central parts of Essex County. So we're talking about eventually towards the Northway, but there's no sign that this is actually going to hold together for that long. And we'll keep watching it as long as there's a tornado warning here. Obviously a severe thunderstorm warning as well in case there's damaging wind, because if there's a tornado, it would be for a very small part of the actual storm cell. But the damaging wind potential, which is for 60 mile per hour or more wind gusts, is certainly there for a while. So take a look at Futurecast here. We'll move this along through the next 15, 30, 60 minutes as it moves off to the north and east. And you'll see that this system moves into the Champlain Valley before wrapping up at about midnight here. So that is going to be when the concern really starts to go down. So if you're in Essex County, New York, the concern area, you definitely want to head to the middle part of a house, perhaps a bathroom or a basement. If you have one, a basement is great in a situation like this. But if you don't have one, the innermost room is best. So as we move forward here, we'll fire things back up and show you the radar and keep watching for the new scans that come in about every minute or two. That's when we're getting the new information in on this cell. We'll show you here on the radar and keep tracking it off to the north and east. This is the storm that has caused the tornado warning in Essex County, New York. We'll show you that there's also a storm down in western Massachusetts. So if you're in southern Vermont, we're not too concerned about that right now. That seems to be missing us, but the area of greatest concern is right here just over the center of Newcomb right now, and that's going to be the case for the next about 10 minutes before the storm keeps moving farther north and east. So let me just fire up this laptop here and show you that some of the towns that are going to be impacted here as it continues off to the north and east. It's a pretty quick mover. The warning here goes for another 18 minutes in this red area, so that includes Newcomb. Now, if you're watching from Lake Placid or Wilmington, keep an eye on this storm. The threat's not immediate in those areas, but it is moving off to the north and east. So if you look beyond the edge of the warning, Keene, New York is sort of in the track of the storm, also North Elba. And if we look a little bit towards the other side, as this thing moves off to the north and east, Elizabethtown probably out of the direct path, but it's close enough for us to keep an eye on it in those areas. The storm cell here, actually a pretty compact one. It's not covering a large area. Let's take a look at the newest scan here of the wind and see what we're looking at. Yeah, this is a very strong signature that we're seeing here. This color is very bright because the wind is being detected to be very strong. And the radar that we're looking at here is the one in Burlington, Vermont. So the green here indicating wind going up to the north and east. And then on the other side, the wind is blowing back down towards the south and west. So you get the spin there. The center of the spin, where the tornado would be right now, is over 28N, just west of the center of Newcomb. And this thing moving along quickly to the north and east. So the threat level is still quite high in this warning. A lot of times we talk about how there might be a tornado, but the risk is not very high. I would say the risk for this particular cell is higher than it usually is, just because of the strength of the signature we're seeing here. Also worth mentioning, this warning is the first tornado warning issued by the Weather Service in Burlington in many years. So that just goes to show you how rare it is for a storm to be at this strength in the Newcomb area. Obviously pretty rural as it continues to move up to the north and east, but the threat will continue here, and we'll take another look at the regular radar mode and show you that the storm is basically out of Hamilton County, New York. It just keeps going off to the north and east. So this is pretty much squarely in Essex County here as we move almost to the 8 o'clock hour with this tornado potential. It's certainly an urgent risk in Essex County, New York, with this very compact cell that's moving through Newcomb right now. So if you know anyone in Newcomb or maybe someone that was out boating in the area, definitely have to be inside in a safe place as quickly as possible, because this thing means business and it is moving along. The other thing we're watching is for updates from the National Weather Service in Burlington. They are the ones that issued this warning, and they will continue to monitor the actual cell and decide how long to keep the warning in effect for. But we're taking a look here and seeing that, as I mentioned, it is a super strong signature. We also have the capability to detect if there is debris from any potential tornado. We're not seeing that right now, so that is good news. We don't have any confirmation of a tornado, but the radar signature, as I've been saying, is quite strong. So the need to take cover and the need to head inside into a lowest level of your home is super important in western portions of Essex County. Let me just zoom out a little bit here, and you'll get a sense for where we are. I mean, it is a little compact storm that's packing a punch here. We have Westport on the southern end of Lake Champlain, Moriah, there's Saranac Lake and Tupper Lake off to the west, and the storm is moving right in the middle of those places, right through the western part of Essex County, New York. So it's moving along at about 30 miles per hour and showing zero sign of weakening here as we move past the 8 o'clock hour. So areas in the middle of Essex County should be preparing, even if there's not quite a warning at this point. We'll take a look here and show you some of the spots. Route 73 as you get a little bit closer towards Elizabethtown, and North Elba would be about on the northern edge of the risk area. Once you go south of North Elba, that's where the risk is going to be from this storm that has the potential to produce a tornado. Let's see if the Weather Service has said anything. They just continue the tornado warning all the way through 8:15. So we have a little less than 15 minutes to go, but if we take a look here at the wind mode on the radar, this is a super strong signature. I would not be surprised if this storm has a tornado with it right now or soon. And it's going right over 28N in Newcomb and moving off to the north and east. We'll show you that as we move forward. It goes over a couple of lakes here, and I know it's a Sunday and it was warm and humid, so if you know anyone that was on a lake or maybe still out there, they have to head inside now. It'd be a good idea to send them a message or give them a call, because this storm means business as it moves north of Newcomb here. The Weather Service actually just put out an update. You might have seen it there. They basically trimmed the warning a little bit narrowing in on that focus area, which is right over Newcomb as it moves off to the north and east. So there's still plenty of real estate here in the warning. No need to issue a new warning quite yet, but I suspect they will as we move forward here past 8:15, because the strength of the cell here is quite significant. And we'll pull up some other towns and show you that this thing keeps moving along, soon to be in central portions of Essex County. So this is moving over a number of lakes, and the Weather Service just putting out an update saying that it is still not confirmed, but the cell is capable of producing a tornado, which is what we have been saying here for a while. And some of the lakes here, just to get an idea, as the cell continues to move over. Harris Lake, certainly in the path of the storm. Rich Lake, as it continues to move north of Newcomb. And some other lakes as it moves up to the north include, parts of the Hudson River, obviously smaller up this far, but Mount Marcy would also be in the line of this storm, and then Keene Valley eventually as it continues up to the north and east. So we are just in a pattern here where you have to take cover. There's a very strong storm moving through the area, and it has the potential to produce a tornado. That's why the tornado warning is up through 8:15. I'll put another track on this so that you can get a sense for where it's going here and show you that with a 30-mile-per-hour speed, we are looking at towns off to the north and east of Newcomb. Not a whole lot, but Tahawus, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's in about 20 minutes as it continues off, and then even beyond that would bring it up towards Route 9 and 87. We just got a brand new scan in here, so let's take a look and show you if it's a good news scan or a bad news scan, and it's not good. It's still very strong. We see this couplet, we call it a couplet, and the wind spins in a circle. That's where the tornado potential is right now. The time is 8:05, and the storm continuing to move off now north of Newcomb. So if you're in the area and if you're watching, obviously in a safe spot, if you see anything or have any pictures or reports of damage after the storm goes through, that would be helpful to have so we can warn people a little bit farther down the road in the path of this storm. And I'm sure the National Weather Service is looking for reports as well. Still don't have any damage reports, but this cell flared up very fast as it was off to the west in Hamilton County, and then it snuck in the eastern, or I should say western portions of Essex County, New York, and it continues to maintain its strength. So we will continue to monitor this as it continues off. Won't go off the air until the threat has diminished, and super important that you take cover. We'll take another look here at Futurecast. This is a model that updates about every hour, so it kind of has a good idea where the storms are at this second, and then it tries to project where they'll go in the next couple of minutes. So if we move this ahead just about an hour to about 9 p.m., you can see that this line just moves towards the Champlain Valley. So if you're in Plattsburgh or you're in Burlington right now, it's not an immediate concern, but with all the humidity that's in the air and of course how warm it's been, the potential will be there for the cell that currently has the tornado warning to maintain its intensity. Lake Champlain's about 80 degrees. Sometimes in the spring it's cool and it'll weekend storms. Not the case this time around in early August. So this continues on off to the north and east through about midnight. I think the threat diminishes after midnight, and that's when we'll be able to sound the all clear. But if you're in the tornado warning right now, again, the safest place in the middle portion of a home without a basement, a bathroom is always a good call, but if there is a basement, the basement is obviously preferable. It keeps you away from windows and things like that, because if there's flying debris, you could always encounter some glass that's broken and stuff like that. So that's why the inside area is the best. So we'll kind of recenter here and get an idea for what's going on. That's the only cell that we're tracking right now. All of Vermont has a clear radar scan. There are some downpours up near Malone and Messina, and given how fast this one strengthened, we do have to watch every single one of them. But the area of concern right now is the one that's over Newcomb and moving just north of it. We'll zoom in a little bit more here and see what the latest scan says. We're waiting for the wind signature to be less, and it's not. It's still not. It's still a very strong signature here just north of Newcomb. It still wouldn't surprise me if this thing is producing a tornado. Maybe it has in the last 10 or 20 minutes. It could lift, it could come down, something like that. But the threat level is very high in an area that usually doesn't have to deal with a threat like this. So that's why we're keyed in on Newcomb and areas just north and east there. All these little lines you see are lakes, different lakes in western portions of Essex County. So that's why I mentioned anyone that was out on a lake. I know it's getting a little late, but if you know someone's still out there, make sure they come in, because this storm continues to move off to the north and east. And the other thing that we look for is a hook signature on radar. Sometimes if you have a tornado, it'll kind of look like a hook. I don't know that I would quite say it looks like a hook right now, but the wind scan on this definitely is the concern, and that's our way to look right in the storm and see when there's a potential. That's where Doppler, where the actual name of the radar came from when they came out with the technology. So this is still very concerning as it moves off to the north and east, and it's moving at about 30 miles per hour. We can loop this to get an idea for how the strength may be changing over the last hour. If I change this to 1 hour, 60 minutes, actually that's kind of fast. Just shows you how much ground this storm is covering in a short amount of time. That's a 30-minute loop right there. It's a little bit fast, but if we slow it down, you can see 30 minutes ago the storm was just south of Long Lake as you head to the west, and then it sped off to the north and east right over the main road there going through Newcomb, 28N. We'll move this forward just to get a sense for how it's moving. The western side, the northern side of Newcomb, and the cell continues to move off in a northeast direction. So let's see, the Weather Service continuing a severe thunderstorm warning and saying tornado possible, but severe thunderstorm warning. So it's possible that they let this warning expire at some point, but right now the risk for the current warning goes for another 5 minutes until 8:15 p.m., and that's why we're on the air, because we have a tornado warning, and the scan here still looks capable of producing one. So let me just take a look at some other things here in the Weather Center, and we'll see how this appears to be moving along. The risk, we're waiting for it to go down. That's our goal as we move forward here, but we still see that very strong signature on radar. And so the Weather Service here in a couple of minutes going to have to decide if the tornado warning continues as we move deeper into the evening. Obviously losing the sunlight, it usually helps, but The storm is very strong right now. So we're watching this move through Essex County, New York, and we should have our meteorologist Ben Frechette here. He's also looking at the radar in the background, and he'll probably be able to provide some thoughts on what's going on here. But this continues to move into the middle part of Essex County, New York, as we await the new radar scan. The storm moving off to the north and east at about 30 miles per hour. So the risk will continue here as we move forward, and that's why we are on TV. Ben, can you hear me?
Hey, Tyler, I can hear you.
How long have you been watching this cell for?
Well, Tyler, I've been watching this cell for quite a while, and you were right to say it blew up pretty fast. You know, it looked like things were quiet for a while. Actually, are you seeing the new tornado warning that just got issued?
Yeah, brand new tornado warning. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so like you said, the National Weather Service obviously recognizing the threat here. They're extending the warning up to about the North Elba area. That's where the polygon kind of ends. If you look towards the south, it kind of almost reaches the Northway, but it still remains well to the west of the Northway at this point. That new warning, by the way, goes until 8:45 p.m.
8:45, so we have over another 30 minutes to go here as we move along. I mean, you've looked at a lot of radar images in this part of the area. This one seems like a pretty strong one to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, Tyler, I would say this is a pretty exceptional storm. You know, I went to college at Lyndon State for 4 years. We looked at this stuff all the time. I can't remember seeing a signature quite like this, at least in this part of the North Country. So this is definitely a situation you don't want to mess with. We don't get tornado warnings too often up here, so it's best to take it seriously. Even though we don't have any official confirmation of a tornado, this storm could drop one at any minute.
Very true. We'll take another scan here on radar, and we'll let them know back there that you are on mic 1 here, and show you that the storm where the new warning is issued is actually not a significantly different area. Basically just extends the time that the warning is in effect for. So this will go all the way until 8:45, as you heard Ben say. We'll take another look at the radar view that we typically look at and show you that storm's pretty strong. A lot of lightning, a lot of heavy rain, and certainly gusty wind if there is not a tornado with this. So the threat there is for everyone for the damaging wind, but right in the middle of the warning, north of Newcomb, is where the immediate tornado threat is, and we're basically just waiting here for more radar updates to hope that the storm weakens, but it is not showing any signs of that right now. Ben, have you seen any reports of damage at this point?
I am looking around, Tyler. I am not seeing any reports of damage, which obviously that's good news. We don't want this thing to cause any damage, but it's kind of hard to tell. Usually we don't get those right away, so we'll just have to wait and see if something comes in here. I can tell you that I'm looking at some of the radar products that we use behind the scene to assess if there's any damage in the air, and I'm not seeing any clear indications of that. So I would say at this point it's a possible tornado, but as we've been mentioning, the signature is just so impressive. You have to take this thing seriously. It looks like it is now moving north of Newcomb and towards the town of Tahawus. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but that is where the next immediate concern is, at least in the near term here.
Yeah, I just pulled up the fancy mode of the radar. We call it dual polarization. That's where we look for debris. And you just said, Ben, that you're not seeing it. I'm not seeing it either, which is good. Doesn't mean that there is no tornado. The debris would have to be up at the beam level to actually see it. But sometimes in a situation like this, when the warning is just going on and on and on, you have to keep a very close eye on it. I'm looping it back and forth. I don't see anything in particular that would indicate that there's a confirmed tornado from radar. But of course, if you see damage or see a tornado, we would like to know about it, and so would the National Weather Service.
Yeah, and this is where storm spotters and reports from viewers really come in handy, because you have to think about where the radar is that's scanning the storm. It's all the way in Burlington, so the beam is several thousand feet in the air where we're seeing this rotation. So it's hard to see what's happening close to the ground, and sometimes the best indication of what's happening at the ground is pictures and reports from people. So certainly if you're in a safe spot and you see some damage, we would like to know about it, but obviously the number one priority here is to get yourself in a safe place if you are anywhere near the path of this storm.
And the warning, as we've been saying, goes until 8:45 this evening, so we have another 29 minutes with this warning as the storm maintains its strength, lifting north of Newcomb. So the rain has stopped in the center of Newcomb. If a tornado touched down, some damage likely visible at this point with the rain now moving out of the area. And this continues off to the north and east in a very rural area, about to go over some of the higher peaks in the Adirondacks. And we're constantly watching this signature right here because this tells us which way the wind is moving. So we'll draw some lines on here and show you that the green color indicates rain and wind inbound towards Lake Champlain, and this color here means that the wind is blowing in a different direction. So right over this part of Essex County, just north of Newcomb, is where the risk area is. And it's a very high risk for a tornado at this point because of how close the colors are together. That's why the tornado warning has been issued. We said this earlier, but the Weather Service in Burlington, pretty conservative with tornado warnings. They don't just throw them around. This is the first one they've issued in many years. I believe it's over 5 years, Ben?
Yeah, I think, and I'm not sure off the top of my head what the date was, but I believe sometime in 2014 was the last time the Weather Service in Burlington issued a tornado warning. So as you've been mentioning, very significant. And Tyler, just looking at the latest radar scans here, do you think it's safe to give the folks in Newcomb an all clear?
Yeah, if you're in Newcomb, especially close to the middle of town, this thing is off to the north and moving off to the north and east, only continuing on farther away from Newcomb. So yeah, I would say that's true. And the, let's see, 8/11, the Weather Service issued that newest tornado warning. So it continues, and we're looking at the other radar scans here that we look at behind the scenes, even higher up into the sky. I mean, this storm is rotating, I'd say, many, many thousand feet into the sky. So it's not just a weak little thing that'll stop being a danger here soon. This thing has a lot of spin with it, right, Ben?
Yeah, and it's moving into an area that's super conducive for tornadic development. And, you know, the Storm Prediction Center, who are a very talented group of meteorologists based in Oklahoma, they've been watching this area all afternoon, and they've been saying this is where we would see tornado development. And indeed, even though things were quiet for a while, Tyler, it really doesn't take much when you have a volatile atmosphere like this to spin something up, and indeed that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, not at all. And let's take a look here and just put a number on some of this wind that we're seeing here. I know this is higher in the sky, but if we click on one of these, the radar is sensing wind at 69 miles per hour in the middle of this storm. And there's rotation that possibly could put down a tornado. But just think, I mean, even if there's not a tornado, the risk is there for a straight line wind to just send down trees, which could take down power lines or even fall in a road, something like that. We just got a brand new scan in, which brings the storm off to the north and east a little bit more. And finally, after a while, we could say it's a good news scan. You see this one, Ben?
Yeah, Tyler, if you notice the couplet, the two colors that are really close together that indicate where the rotation is, it looks a lot, or I shouldn't say a lot less impressive, but definitely less impressive than the previous scan. So that is telling us that the rotation, at least for a time being, is broadening out a little bit. It's not as tight, which is lowering the risk for a tornado, but I wouldn't say we're out of the woods quite yet. It's still a pretty impressive signature, but this is the kind of trend you want to see as we go forward here, Tyler. We really just want to see this couplet kind of wash itself out, and hopefully that continues to be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. This is far from an all clear, but it's good to see the crazy strong couplet signature diminish somewhat here with the latest scan. I zoomed out just a little bit. If you're just tuning in, you're probably wondering exactly where we're talking about here. If I zoom out even more, you can see on the side of the screen over there, you have Lake Champlain, the blue indicating the water of Lake Champlain. North Elba is on the northern side of the tornado warning. The concern there is low at this point. North Hudson is down there by the Northway, and then we have Lewis and Route 9 there. That's far away from the storm, at least as of this second, but we're watching the storm just north of Newcomb as of right now, and it continues off to the north and east. It seems like this thing has slowed down. Before it was moving at 30. I'd say probably a little bit slower, wouldn't you, Ben?
Yeah, I would agree with that, Tyler. And perhaps that's also an indication that this thing may start to wind itself down. Admittedly, that's not something I'm super confident of, so I wouldn't take that at face value. But it doesn't really change much for the situation. I am noticing the signature where the tornado could possibly be is hugging the northern side of this polygon. So it may be a little early, but North Elba, Keene, anywhere along, say, 73, Route 73 in New York, Keene Valley, St. Hubert's, you might want to start thinking about preparations to take because this storm is heading your way. We're seeing signs that the rotation is diminishing somewhat, but we can't say that for certain. So again, we just want to make sure everyone in the path of this storm remains vigilant. And Tyler, I know we talk a lot about damaging wind, and obviously the tornado threat is what's most concerning at this time, but are we seeing any signs of hail? This looks like a pretty small storm, so that doesn't really seem like a concern to me.
Let's take a look here. This is the hail tracker over the last number of minutes. We're not seeing a whole lot. There was a little bit when it first popped up down in Hamilton County, New York, but the hail potential has diminished. But the one thing we can show you that will be of interest to this storm is the rotation history, right? It's a tornado warning. We track rotation. And indeed, the rotation history tracker is showing quite an extensive history of rotation here, back from when this storm started out in the county to the west, and now it's over Essex County. We'll zoom in and show you that, if anything, the most rotation we've seen has been in our area, in Essex County, especially as the storm went over Route 28N. That would be New York 28N, and then up to the north of there, all of this green here indicating rotation, even as it moves over some of the lakes in that area. So the tornado potential absolutely continues as this thing moves off to the northern portion of the tornado warning. And there's definitely a hook echo appearance to this that we're seeing right now. And sometimes that is an indicator that there may be a tornado on the southern end of the hook. That's where the concern would be. Very rural area. That's why we're not seeing many town names pop up here, but we can see lake names, and Henderson Lake would be in the path of this, and the high peaks of the Adirondacks are also coming up very soon. So Mount Marcy and other peaks of that sort. You seeing anything new, Ben?
We're kind of at the point, Tyler, where we're just waiting for new scans to come in. Obviously, we're going to stay on the air until the threat is diminished because this is an immediate threat to life and property. So whenever a tornado warning appears, no matter where it is in our area, even in more of the rural areas, we will always go on for it. So that's the thing. We're just going to have to wait this out and see how each of these scans come in. And of course, we'll let you know. And again, if I know that warning contains Newcomb right now, but we've already sounded the all clear for that. I would say, I'm not sure what some of these lakes are, but a majority of this warning probably isn't in any immediate danger. We're mainly focusing on the area that is to the north of Tahoe. And again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that name.
Yeah, it's right over that right now, Tahoe, and moving off to the north and east. And we'll try to get some of these lake names here and let you know that it's over Well, the Hudson River there's a canoe and kayak access in Tahawus, and some lakes to the north include Henderson Lake, and then once you get out towards Mount Marcy and Lake Calden and lakes like that, all these little lines here are the lakes that this is moving over. So I know it's about to be dark already, but everyone's got to head in this tornado warning. The threat continues through at least another 20 minutes here, right, Ben?
Yeah, the tornado warning again goes until 8:45. Now, if the rotation continues to diminish, the Weather Service may very well let this go a little bit early. I know we've seen them do that in the past when we've had these kind of setups. But, I mean, the rotation is still definitely there. It looks like the new scan still has a more broad rotation, so we're not seeing it worsen, but we're not really seeing things improve yet. So I would say the threat's still very much there. And just to, again, call out a couple names of towns that are outside of the warning, we're talking North Elba, Keene. If you live along Route 73 in New York, we're talking about places like Keene Valley, St. Hubert's, possibly even Underwood. You just want to have your eye on this storm, even though it looks like it's starting to weaken. We just want to make sure you guys are in the know and you prepare in case this thing continues to show strong rotation as it moves your way. And Tyler, are you seeing the new scan that just came in?
Let's take a look here. The velocity scan, this is great news.
This is excellent news. This is exactly what we want to see.
Yeah, the couplet dramatically weaker here. And as we've been mentioning, this is moving over the high peaks of the Adirondacks, and it will continue to do so for a while. So as it's doing that, at this scan, we're seeing quite a weaker signal here, which is what we've been waiting quite a while for, even since this storm first came into Essex County. It just had a super strong signature that was capable of producing a tornado. So as we move this back, let me just show you the difference here. See how the colors were so close together and so different back here in the western part of the warning? That was where the concern level was really high. And then if we move it forward to now, it's a lot more washed out. The green indicates it's a gusty wind, but we're not seeing that couplet that we refer to the difference in color as. The difference in color meaning the rotation potential. Right now, I would say that this storm does not have a lot of rotation with it. So as of 8:28, we're in a much different situation than we were at about 8 o'clock when this was a very, very threatening storm. And this now lifting farther north and east of Tahawus and closer to Mount Marcy at this point, with a lot of heavy rain and a lot of lightning, and that will continue to be the case even after the immediate tornado threat diminishes. This is a scan out of the radar in Burlington, which is what we've been showing you. And the red color and the yellow color indicates the very heavy rain, maybe some small hail, but the hail's not the big concern at this point. It's really the damaging wind and the tornado, but the tornado would be for a lot smaller part of the storm than everything else. And Ben, take a look at this. When we zoom out just a little bit, there's more of a line forming here off to the west in the north, which is what we've been waiting all afternoon for. It was quiet for the longest time, and now that is clearly different. We have the tornado warning, but even behind the tornado warned storm and north of it, there are downpours that could go severe soon. And with the history of the rotation here, we know that the atmosphere is very ripe for dangerous weather. We just saw the severe thunderstorm warning go off the map, so that severe thunderstorm warning expired at 8:30. We now have 15 more minutes to go with the tornado warning in the western part of Essex County, and at that point the Weather Service will have to decide if they want to keep the tornado warning going. We just got a message from them. Continues the tornado warning till 8:45. So I know the signature is not quite as strong as it was before, but obviously we're being on the safe side here and saying that there's still a risk for a tornado. That's what the Weather Service is messaging right now for this storm in Essex County. Ben, have you seen anything else on your end in your home weather center?
Well, I just saw the warning got trimmed back. That's some great news.
Right
I'm also jumping around the radar and looking at a couple of other storms. Obviously, you showed the line of showers and some storms that are starting to form not seeing really any rotation with any of those either. So maybe if you're seeing some dark clouds on the horizon and you're thinking, uh-oh, could I possibly have a tornado too? Happy to tell you that looks like it's not the case. This is the most concerning storm, honestly, that we've seen all day. So if you're thinking that the risk is up for anyone else, it's really just this one area that we saw come north of Newcomb. And I would say now the storm is just south of North Elba, again, leading towards Keene and places along Route 73, New York 73, that is Keene Valley, St. Hubert's. That's where the storm is heading. But as we've been mentioning, Tyler, the rotation is becoming a little more broad and less apparent. So the tornado risk with this storm is diminishing, but that doesn't mean we can't have some damaging winds.
Very true. And if you're wondering why we stay on the air for a tornado warning, it's obviously because of the immediate threat to life and property. But the other thing, I don't know if you saw this, Ben, but the same weather system just to our south in Connecticut and Massachusetts put down at least one tornado. It might have put down 2 tornadoes about an hour or 2 ago. So the whole system that's moving through the Northeast has a track record of producing damage and producing tornadoes. And it just so happens that this cell, a little bit farther north, had the characteristic signature for a tornado producer. And the track here off to the north and east puts it in Keene in 27 minutes, Lewis in 52 minutes, and Crowning Shield in 59 minutes. We've been using North Elba as a bit of a waypoint here. It's on the northern side of the warning, that is North Elba. I don't think there's much concern in North Elba for a tornado. It's just south of town as we continue to move forward here. And we have a new radar scan in terms of which way the wind is blowing. And again, the trend of good news continues. We can go back a couple here, and it is dramatically weaker. I'm sure you would agree, Ben, right?
Yep, this is continued good news, Tyler. It looks a lot messier now. We're not seeing that rotation really consolidate onto a point. So that tells us, again, we're seeing the rotation kind of decrease in the storm. It's starting to get weaker. You know, we have the sun going down, so we're going to lose the daytime heating. So the trend is good here. But again, the warning goes until 8:45. It looks like the Weather Service is at least going to let this go until that time, just because they want to be on the safe side. But this is good news. I continue to look around at some of the other storms. I will point out the severe thunderstorm warning that just popped up outside of our area. Do you see that just came up, Tyler?
Yeah.
If you look to the west and a little to the south.
Yep, and that basically tells us that we have to be on guard for the next few hours, because this storm that has the tornado warning had a severe thunderstorm warning for like 10 minutes before it, got stronger and the Weather Service issued a tornado warning. So these things just have been flaring up very quickly over the Adirondacks here as we move past 8:30 now. And the wider shot here shows even some downpours up towards Lion Mountain into portions of Clinton County, New York. These cells in the northern part of the area are not severe. They have some lightning and heavy rain and stuff like that, but the wind threat and the tornado threat has all been south of Clinton County, at least as of now. We've been showing Futurecast that brings everything over the Champlain Valley in the next couple of hours, but as of right now, the concern is still down in Essex County. And we can zoom out even more and see if there's anything going on south, and it shows us that the storm that produced the tornado in southern New England has totally diminished. So we're hopeful that the trend will make it up here, make it up north. And I know it took us a little bit longer to really get these storms to flare up, and that's why there's still energy out there for them, why we're still talking about this at 8:35 in the evening. But we have 10 more minutes to go with this tornado warning in Essex County. We zoom out because we want to show you what's going on elsewhere. If you're in St. Jay, Newport, Montpelier, Lebanon, Springfield, all clear right now. I wouldn't say all clear in Burlington or Plattsburgh just because that's where this line is moving. It's not an immediate tornado threat in those areas. But remember, the tornado watch, which we've been showing for a while, goes until 10 p.m. It keeps getting trimmed on the western edge, so no longer a watch up by Watertown or Syracuse. But the tornado watch continues for another hour and a half here for the Champlain Valley down through Middlebury and Rutland and Bennington. Plattsburgh is in the tornado watch. Malone out towards the western portion of the area, out towards the Seaway Valley. The watch goes until 10, and we'll have to keep watching these cells as they move across because we have evidence that they want to rotate a lot. We'll zoom in again and take a look at the latest scan here on the one in Essex County. And again, the good news continues. So at this rate, I think the National Weather Service will let this expire, Ben, at the end of the warning, which is at 8:45.
I completely agree with that, Tyler. It just doesn't look as impressive as it first did when it entered our viewing area, so we'll continue to watch that diminish. I will say I'm looking at the storm outside of our area that will eventually make it into basically the same place this storm went through, and there's a pretty decent surge of damaging wind, so this is just a reminder that, you know, the tornado threat isn't the only thing we're following here. This storm coming in from places west of Long Lake and Indian Lake could easily provide some damaging winds if it holds itself together. So we're not just tracking the tornadoes, Tyler. We're kind of spreading ourselves out here, keeping an eye on a lot of different things. I will remind folks as well, the tornado watch goes until 10 p.m. So that potential will be there through at least that time. And just to clarify, because I've gotten a couple questions about this today after I did the morning show, a tornado watch, the difference between a tornado watch and a warning, a watch means the ingredients are there to produce a tornado. It doesn't necessarily mean one will form or that one is occurring. It just means the atmosphere is primed to produce one. A tornado warning is an imminent threat to life and property, and that's why we've gone ahead and broken into coverage, and that's why we're staying on this one warning. But thankfully, it looks like the storm is starting to fizzle out.
Yeah, and we zoomed the map a little bit so we can see what's ahead of this storm. And this area of blue, that's Lake Placid, and Whiteface, obviously not far from Lake Placid. That area is in the clear from this particular cell. But if you're in Keene, I think the storm's going to go right over Keene. Obviously, it's weaker now than it was 30 minutes ago, but we'll watch it closely as it moves out of the tornado warning and over Keene. Elizabethtown, probably south of the storm. I think it moves right up through here in the direction of Keene and eventually into northern Essex County and eventually towards the Northway as we move closer to 9 o'clock. And we'll loop this here and show you the movement continues on off to the north and east. And as you've said, Ben, there's more action now west of this storm. Not a tornado concern at this moment, but the spin in the atmosphere overall is still there, even though it's late at night. So that's why we have to keep watching and why the tornado watch goes until 10 p.m. You also see New York there in the general path as this thing moves off to the north and east. The one thing that we have not seen, at least as of yet, is a damage report. Have you seen anything, Ben?
I have not seen anything, Tyler. I've been periodically checking the radar product that shows us if damage is in the air, and I haven't seen any significant signatures there. But again, it's kind of hard to detect that in this part of our area just because the radar beam is so high. You wouldn't really see anything unless it was super strong. So I guess that's a good thing that we haven't seen that kind of signature. But of course, sometimes it takes a little while for those damage reports to come in after everybody gets out of shelter and starts discovering things that may have fallen down or gotten damaged around the area. So we'll have to wait and see if any of that comes in over the next couple of hours here.
At least on the typical radar view, Ben, this storm that's about to enter Essex County from Hamilton County sort of has a hook. Again, not seeing a lot on the velocity scan in terms of what the radar sees for wind, but this is looking a little more concerning now, the one that's heading towards Newcomb. Again, do you see that latest update?
Yeah, I do. That's definitely a pretty concerning look, Tyler. It looks a lot like what we call a supercell, and that's the kind of storm that can produce a tornado. And when you see a hook that pronounced, it definitely draws your attention. So this is just a reminder that we're not out of the woods. We could very well see a tornado warning pop up on this storm. Now, that is not the case at this time. It is still outside of our viewing area, but it's a reminder that we need to stay vigilant and just keep an eye to the sky. And we're going to be doing this, I have a feeling, all the way until the tornado watch expires, just kind of babysitting the radar and keeping an eye on these areas of rotation. Thankfully, it still seems the one in the tornado warning is weakening. I see some very broad rotation there, Tyler, but it still continues to diminish, and perhaps the tornado threat isn't as apparent or concerning as it was even a little while ago. So continued good news there.
Yeah, less of a tornado risk for this cell, but I think the damaging wind concern is still there. So if I had to guess here, I think in 4 minutes, the National Weather Service will say, okay, severe thunderstorm warning instead of tornado warning, at least for this cell just south of North Elba. But of course, damaging wind still a big risk. You never know when a big tree is going to come down on a road or a house. I mean, this thing is still packing a punch, even though it's not a spin kind of motion. It's more of a straight line wind threat that we're watching here, moving towards North Elba and Keene and Route 73 in that area in about 20 or 30 minutes. We have now less than 3 minutes left on this particular tornado warning. So we will see what happens after this, but there will definitely be more to track here, especially as this next line of storms comes in from the west. Basically, anyone in the Champlain Valley, especially in the direction of Clinton County, southern Clinton County, even across Lake Champlain. I don't know if you heard earlier, Ben, but we were talking about the water temperature. A lot of times you could just bank on the lake to weaken things when it's 65 degrees, but it's just not. It's a record temperature.
Yeah, Tyler, and we actually just got a new severe thunderstorm warning kind of upstream of where this storm is going. So this is another great sign that because the Weather Service didn't issue a tornado warning ahead of this storm, that tells us that they also believe the potential for a tornado at least is down to the point where it doesn't warrant another warning. So I think this current warning will end up expiring in 2 minutes, but you want to quickly go over maybe where the new severe thunderstorm warning is? It looks like it includes quite a few towns there, Tyler.
Absolutely, yeah. Hail to the quarter size also possible. The Weather Service has this storm moving at about 35 miles per hour. So if we bring this out of Essex County and up towards Lake Champlain and the southern portion of Clinton County, you'll see some towns here as the storm continues to lift in that direction. And, well, great news. That ding you just heard was the tornado warning being allowed to expire hair early here. But as the storm continues, it'll be in Upper J in 16 minutes, Deerhead in about a half hour, just over that, Chesterfield in 48, and Port Kent in just under an hour. So the tornado threat has diminished, and as a result of that, we will send things back over to programming here. But I just want to show you one last time that the line of storms has formed and will be with us for the next 2 hours as it moves towards Plattsburgh, Burlington, and Middlebury. So if another storm does get a tornado warning, we'll be on and let you know and take you through it. For now, though, Ben, it appears to be a damaging wind threat.
Yeah, I would keep a very close eye on that storm near Long Lake just because it still looks like it has a bit of a hook, but we can't say for sure that there's an immediate tornado concern. You mentioned that damaging wind can still do quite a bit of damage, so it's definitely good to keep an eye on that. And all of this is going to be moving through our area, so just keep an eye to the sky and have a way to receive weather alerts. And it looks like we just lost the tornado warning, Tyler.
Yeah, so that's the good news. We'll be in. We'll check on things as needed through the evening. Of course, the news at 10 on the CW and here on NBC at 11. For now, though, we'll send you back over to programming.